if you want to know why you dey feel the way they feel inside your mind, inside your brain, and generally why things dey the way they around you, Mind Clinic na the radio program we go teach you how to deal with all different types of stress and other things wey person dey go through. On top Mind Clinic, you fit talk about mind matter wey concern you directly or the one wey no even concern you directly.
It's time for the Mind Clinic. The Mind Clinic is a very, very special program focusing on mental health, and it's brought to you by Neem Foundation. And on the show today, we're talking about depression and suicide as it relates to men, and we're hoping that the men will not be shy and will be open enough to, talk about their journey, the process through the whole depression. We understand that there are a lot of men who battle depression, bottle it inside, and never seek counseling or talk to a clinical psychologist or any psychologist at all. We'll be looking at all of this and much more on the show today. But I've got the ever beautiful Chinyerugo Densi on the show. Good morning.
Morning. Very nice of you to tap me up this morning. How are you, Victor?
I'm very well.
Good stuff.
All right, then. And like I said, we'll be talking about depression and suicide in men. So I'm joined by a consultant psychiatrist, founder Suicidal Foundation. He's a senior lecturer, Department of Psychiatry, College of Medicine in the University of Ibadan, Oyo State. Dr. Jibril Abdul Malik is our guest on the show. Dr. Abdul, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me, and good morning to our listeners out there.
Thank you very much for being a part of the show this morning. How is Ibadan this morning?
Ibadan is good. The weather is cool, and the rains have started, so everything is good. Thank you.
All right then. And we hope that Nigerians are adhering strictly to guidelines against COVID-19, the ones set up by the government.
Right. We hope so, and we keep encouraging everyone to, as much as possible, comply, because our collective well-being is dependent on our individual and communal responsible behavior. So we keep encouraging everybody to be responsible.
All right. We're very glad that you're able to join us this morning. Anyways, we'll get straight to the conversation, right? Depression is a very sensitive issue, A lot of people have this experience every now and again. And although there are many variations, some might say that they seem similar, And if we have to look at the statistics, globally, 264 million people of all ages have gone through or have been through a depression, and we know that depression can lead to suicide. So in simple words, what is depression and what is suicide?
Thank you very much, Victor. Let me just mention to our listeners out there that three criteria distinguish what is normal from what is abnormal. So, for instance, it's normal for everybody, each and every one of us, including those of us on this program now. It's normal that we all have good days and bad days. So some days you wake up, you're happy, you jump out of bed, you're looking forward to your day. Some other days you have to struggle, to get out of bed because you don't feel like it, or you're tired and so on. So these fluctuations in mood is normal for everybody. Okay? What distinguishes normal sadness from depression as a clinical disorder, and the same criteria distinguishes every other mental health problem from what is normal, are three things. Number one is the severity of the symptoms. Number two is how long the symptoms last continuously for. And so that's duration. And lastly, number three is whether these symptoms are affecting our ability to function in our day-to-day activities. Like at work, in our relationship with our family members, in our relationship with colleagues at work or with neighbors, or in our churches or mosques. The way you relate, whether these symptoms are now beginning to affect your day-to-day functioning. So when you have symptoms that are very severe, last for a long time. In depression, we talk about continuously lasting for more than 2 weeks. And then number 3, the symptoms are affecting your day-to-day functioning. That is when we begin to talk about a disorder. So we talk about depression is a condition that occurs when there is extreme, overwhelming feelings of sadness, as well as plenty other symptoms. I will talk about them later. I just want to use this like an overview introduction.
Yes.
So the key symptom is that there is overwhelming feeling of sadness all of the time, or most of the time, lasting continuously for more than 2 weeks at a stretch. That is the duration. And number 3, that these symptoms begin to affect our ability to concentrate and function at work, in our relationship with family members, and so on and so forth. So when we have this symptoms of such severity lasting for more than 2 weeks and affecting our day-to-day functioning, then we say that this is no longer a case of ordinary sadness, but a case of clinical depression. So you want me to talk about suicide?
Yes, please. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay, so maybe to understand suicide, let me just list the other symptoms of depression. So there's overwhelming feelings of sadness. There is loss of energy, feeling tired all of the time. And things that one used to enjoy previously, you no longer enjoy them. Other things include feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, not being optimistic about the future or about one's life at the moment. There's also lots of feelings of guilt and feeling responsible for every bad thing that has happened to you or to others. You feel, it's my fault, I'm responsible. It's because of me that things are not going well. So the person tends to unnecessarily blame himself or herself for everything that is going wrong. And they may also have problems with sleeping poorly, not having appetite, not having problems with their libido, and their attention, they can't concentrate at work. They have difficulties concentrating. So the key thing I want us to take from depression is that it's like, our eyes are like the lens through which we see life generally.
Yes.
So if you wear a dark sunshade that is really dark, even if you are in the hot sun, the moment you wear the sunshade, it will suddenly look as if the day has become night because you are wearing that dark sunshade. So that's what depression does to us. It's like something that colors our perception of our life. And suddenly everything in our life that was good, that we used to enjoy, that we were proud of, everything suddenly looks gloomy, dark, doesn't look so nice anymore, and as if there's nothing absolutely good going on in our life. So when people experience this type of symptoms and it goes on for a long time, it drains them of emotional energy. They feel tired, they feel like there's nothing to live for, they feel that it's too much trouble to get out of bed, to function at work. It is this type of feelings and symptoms that begin to make some of them wish for an escape route. And some of them begin to think, if only I could just sleep and not wake up again. At least I will escape this mystery that I'm going through, this emotional pain that I'm going through. And that's when thoughts of suicide begins to creep in. And at that stage, we call it suicidal ideation. So the idea is just beginning to pop into their head. Okay? And then the second step of suicidal behavior is to begin to plan. To say, okay, how do I want to carry it out and so on. And then you may then have an attempt before eventually there is a successful completion of suicide. And suicide itself is a very big problem. You had mentioned in your intro, Victor, that depression is the commonest mental health problem in the world. And as you rightly mentioned, up to 250 million people globally. That's more than the entire population of Nigeria. May be suffering from depression at any point. Suicide is also a big problem now that the WHO has declared it. WHO is the World Health Organization, has declared suicide as a public health emergency way back in 2012, not even this year, way back in 2012. WHO declared it a public health emergency. And the question is why? The reason is that we estimate that 1 million people die from suicide every year. This is WHO statistics. And these 1 million people, what that means is that every 40 seconds, somewhere on this planet Earth, a human being has intentionally taken his or her own life, and that's what we define as suicide. Every 40 seconds. So we've been speaking now for like 10 minutes or so. You can imagine the number of people that have taken their own lives as a result of suicide. So it's a big, big problem. And don't forget that this 1 million is an underestimate, because there are many countries like Nigeria and Africa and other developing countries.
Now did you say 1 million every year?
Every year, yes.
Okay.
1 million deaths every year. And the breakdown of that is that every 40 seconds, one person is completed. One person.
All right.
Intentionally.
We'll come back to you, Dr. Abdul. Exactly. Right. We really understand that it's a very big problem that we're faced with globally. It's not just a Nigerian problem. Now let's talk to you, Ms. Udensi. In your years of practice as a clinical psychologist, have you had to deal with men, who would come for counseling, because they are battling depression and they are having suicidal thoughts?
Yes, I have. I have dealt with quite a number of men coming in battling with depression. However, the numbers are significantly low compared to the women that come in. But that being said, you have quite a number of men that come in with suicidal ideation. And something that we said last week that actually stuck with me, resonated with me, that people tend to generally, I find that most men who come into this profession generally tend to come in when things have gotten quite severe. And so if we had to go by what Dr. Abdul just stated now, I think it's very important that we do not wait till things get severe and till perhaps things get to a point of suicidal ideation for us to come in. But I do want to agree and say that depression is prevalent amongst Nigerian men. It's not just something that we read in the book or hear in the newspaper. There are lots of men battling emotional and behavioral health challenges. And I keep on wondering how lots of people are even coping during this period of lockdown and the period of isolation and period of a lot of uncertainty and stress. Because truth be told, we are in a stressful situation at the moment.
Dr. Abdul, what are the signs to look out for in men experiencing depression?
Right. Thank you very much, Victor. Apart from the general symptoms I have mentioned earlier, overwhelming feelings of sadness, feeling tired all of the time, losing interest in things they used to enjoy previously, feelings of low self-esteem, helplessness, sleeping poorly, poor appetite, having difficulties concentrating at work, and so on and so, including suicidal ideation. These are general symptoms that can occur both in male and females. So the ones that are commonly occurring in men, which may not be very easy to spot, are the ones I want us to focus on. And that's things like irritability, because for women, you will expect that there's symptoms like weepy spells, crying for no good reason. Those type of symptoms are common in women. But in men, what you see is that they become very irritable, they have a low threshold for anger, and they become very quarrelsome, and they have anger issues. But it's because of the underlying emotional issues that they are not dealing with. Okay, that's why they sort of externalize, they act out, because of the symptoms they are having. And we also have some men who turn to alcohol and drug abuse as a way of trying to boost themselves to feel better. So for men, these are apart from the general symptoms of depression that we had discussed earlier, for men what stands out is the fact that they tend to act out by becoming very irritable, having anger issues, and becoming quarrelsome. And some may also try to use alcohol and drugs to try and improve their mood, to make themselves feel better. So in all of these issues, it's always best to try and get to the underlying issues. What are the problems going on and how are they? Because as Ms. Udensi has mentioned earlier, men are not as forthcoming with their emotions and so on. They tend to bottle it up and hold it in until it becomes a big problem, and then they explode and start erupting and behaving, abnormally. So that's those are the symptoms that are commoner in men, which one may not easily suspect, but may be due to depression.
Now, are these same signs common when men are experiencing suicidal thoughts?
Sorry, can you come again?
Okay, I'm asking, these same signs that you're talking about in regards to depression, are there similar signs when a man is having suicidal thoughts?
Okay, good. Now, the issue is this. For suicide, what we know from the literature, from research, is that most people who commit suicide will have given a hint at some point or the other, maybe when I'm not there again, this is what you should do, or this life is things are so tough. In fact, I'm not sure I can continue like this. I don't know how long I can continue like this. Again, these are commoner in females. Men, we are very poor communicators, sorry to say. We tend to bottle things up and may not be as verbal, but by actions or inactions may show a body language and stuff like that. So this can also evidence of planning or giving hints or saying, look, if I'm not there again, if they are married, telling their wife, if I'm not there again, take care of our children, or this is what I want if I'm not there again. Those are telltale giveaway signs. But the reality from the research is that most of the time, men hardly give these hints.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that's even where part of the problem is that sometimes you can't really see it because it's hidden under your quote-unquote masculine behavior, and then most men will not communicate. I think that also is part of the problem that we are facing.
If you've ever had to deal with a depressing situation, please share with us how you were able to overcome it. Or if you've been, having symptoms similar to what our doctor, our guest on the show, has talked about, please do well to call us up and let's hear from you this morning as we progress with the conversation. We're getting to the phone lines now. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Yes, good morning. Turn down the volume on your radio. Oh, wow. Okay, Dr. Jibril, what can attribute to men experiencing depression or suicidal thoughts?
Right. Many factors may predispose to depression and as well as suicidal thoughts, because we know that suicidal thoughts usually is a complication of severe depression. So these factors, the first one is biological factors. By biological, I mean changes in our body. We know that our brain is the headquarters of everything we do. Our brain controls our thinking, our emotions, everything we do essentially. And this brain works in two ways. There is some electrical activity as well as some chemicals that control what we do. So a disorder of electrical activity, for instance, with the epilepsy, where the person will start jacking and convulsing and stuff like that. Most mental health problems are caused by abnormalities in the level of the chemicals in the brain. And depression is not any different. So the chemicals responsible for our mood, when the levels are very low, that is when we experience clinical depression. So that's a biological risk factor. Then we have psychological ones too. For instance, those who have suffered lots of traumatic experiences in their childhood, maybe they were abandoned or they had child abuse, physical or sexual abuse, and so on and so forth. Okay, or those who have difficulties such as low self-esteem and certain types of personalities may be predisposed to developing depression. The same also applies to social risk factors. For instance, if you work in a hostile work environment, or you have an unhealthy relationship with your spouse, or any such, or you have financial worries. So social factors may also predispose individuals to developing depression. And it is when there is depression, at least in 80 to 90% of cases, that suicidal ideation and behavior now follows. And especially let me at this point quickly clarify. Some people usually say that, but your life is good now. You are a successful radio broadcaster, for instance, or you are a successful clinical psychologist. You have a good job, you have a good car, you have a good family. What business do you have being depressed? Why are you suicidal? These sorts of claim is as a result of ignoring the fact that it's a medical disorder.
Yes.
It's not a conscious decision of choice. So in essence, we sort of blame the victim and make them feel ungrateful, or it's because you don't have enough faith. Don't you know God? Blessing you, how can you be depressed when God has done so much for you? So these are unhelpful societal attitudes that we have. We should appreciate that it's a medical disorder and it requires treatment, which may be use of medications or use of psychotherapy. And it's not every patient that is depressed that needs medications. Some can do very well with psychotherapy alone and they will get better. So this is what we need to. It's like somebody who is having diarrhea and is running to the toilet, and you say, come on, be a man, stop going to the toilet.
Exactly.
If the person stops going to the toilet, he's going to defecate and soil his clothes or her clothes. So you don't tell someone with diarrhea like that. So we should also not tell people who are depressed to just snap out of it and be a man or have faith. This is not something that is a matter of conscious mind or faith. It's a question of a medical disorder that requires professional attention to help them get better.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jibril. Let's see if we can take at least 2-3 messages from the WhatsApp portal. I have this one here from Martins, and Martins says, I'm glad I was able to reflect to myself by listening to the show. Right now, I decided to think of all the positive ways, and if all the possibilities runs off, then that will be the time I'll be switching to the negative thoughts. However, there are a lot of positive things to think about. All right, thank you, Martins, for your message. And we have another message from... there's no name to this one. Says, I was 12 and I told my mother, who was a nurse. It took me days to get the courage to tell her, and then when I finally did, she laughed at me and told me I didn't know what depression was. I ran off crying, and I was contemplating suicide at the time. Still to this day, at age 27, we didn't get a complete message there. I'm sorry about that one. I'm hoping that we had a complete message from this person. No name to that message. But let's take one more, and then we'll see if we can take a few calls before we wrap up the show this morning. Well, Williams is sending an advice this morning. He says, just think positive. It really does help chase those blues away. Well, that's the message Williams sent to us this morning. Doctor, we have people who still talk to their parents and their parents shut them up.
Right.
And not so helpful, is it?
No, it's absolutely unhelpful. It's part of some of our cultural practices that are not helpful that we need to address. We should be open to children. I've had a patient, a parent tell me that his 7-year-old child told him that life is too hard. And she was just... Unfortunately for her, she was on a good mood and she had time, and she was taking her back and sat the boy down. What do you mean life is too hard? She thought she didn't know what she was talking about. And then the boy started complaining about the fact that they had too many subjects in school, he has too much homework, he hardly has time to ride on his bicycle and play with his friends anymore.
Wow.
That's why he said life is too hard. From a 7-year-old child. You see, so we need to pay attention and listen to our children when they try to gain our attention, when they make complaints. Let's not dismiss them out of hand. I think that's something that we need some parental reorientation about.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much for that one. But before we wrap up the show this morning, I would like for you to advise a man who's listening right now. What can a man listening now do if he's experiencing depression or having suicidal thoughts?
Right, thank you very much. If any of our listeners you are having any of the symptoms of depression, what you need to do is ensure that you try to do lots of positive things like exercise. Exercise helps to lift mood. If you exercise regularly, try and ensure that you are socially engaged, you visit friends, you engage in things that you used to enjoy, even if you don't feel like doing it. Because when you are idle, that is when you begin to brood and ruminate over the negative thoughts over and over, and then you feel worse. So you need to break that circle, stay active, go out there, participate in activities, and that should help to improve your mood. But if you are not getting better, if you are still not feeling better after like 2 weeks, please ensure that you see a mental health professional, see a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist in the facility closest to you so that you can get the professional help you need. That would be my recommendation.
All right, we must thank you so much, Dr. Jibril. But before we go, Chinyerugo would like for you to give us perhaps an email, a phone number, and the account on Instagram that we can reach Neem Foundation if we need to talk to you in private. I understand it's on radio, and some persons might not be bold enough to pick up a phone and call. But we might want to send an email or call you after the show, or send just send a DM to you directly. How can we reach you?
So let's start off with the phone number. So you can contact the sanctuary on 0706 065054. I'm going to say that again. 0706 062 5054. And then you can send us an email on sanctuary, that's SANCDAIY, sanctuary at neemfoundation.org.ng. And then you can reach us on Instagram at Neem Sanctuary. So it's NEEM Sanctuary. Because on Instagram you can send a DM, and then we'll communicate and have conversations with you and see how best we can support you.
All right, great. We just had a message coming now. It says that depression is a spirit. It takes prayer and a message of hope and faith to overcome. Jones is the one who sends this message. Dr. Jibril, for the very last time, please react in maybe 40 seconds.
Right. I'm not in any way, we as mental health professionals, we are not dismissing the efficacy of prayers or fellowship and all of that.
Yes.
That can be helpful. But what we are just saying is that it should not be mutually exclusive. Some people think it is purely spiritual, and so you have no business seeking professional treatment for it. If only you have faith, if only you pray enough, you will not have it. That is what we are saying is wrong. You can always get professional treatment and support that with prayers. They shouldn't be mutually exclusive. It should not be either this one or the other one. Both of them can work together, but most especially we recommend professional treatment, and you can support that by all means with prayers.
All right, we must thank you so much. Guest on the show, Dr. Jibril Abdul Malik, Senior Lecturer, Department of Psychiatry, College of Medicine, University of Ibadan. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Good morning to our listeners.
Thank you very much. We must also thank you, Chinyerugo Densi, for always coming up with very fantastic ideas to talk about on radio.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you very much. So a lot of takeaways from the show today. It's not a feeling that will just go away. It's not a character flaw. It's not a sign of personal weakness. It's not something that one just snaps out of because you advised them to. It's more than just a sad feeling. It doesn't stem from insufficient prayer or lack of faith. What you can do is talk to a clinical psychologist or to a psychiatrist. What you can do is send a DM to the Neem Sanctuary on Instagram. You can also call them or text 0706 062 5054. I'll take it again. 0706 062 5054. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. Again, I would like you to remember that in 2012, the WHO declared that suicide has become a public health emergency. 1 million people die from it every year. In every 40 seconds, at least 1 to 5 persons die. You should seek help you should talk to someone today. My name is Victor Pepple. The show comes back again next week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock, right here on this station. It's the Mind Clinic, and it's proudly brought to you by Neem Foundation. Good morning.